We ain't playing no games no more. We're ready for war, yeah. We ain't playing no games no more. We're ready for war. We're ready for war, yeah. We're ready for war.
All right, Shalom family, and welcome to another edition of the GOCC Wednesday night broadcast. This is Elder Lawyer filling in for Elder Ricard Shiar, who, if it be the Most High's will be back with us this Friday. Tonight we have a lesson titled Space Wars and the Return of Christ.
Good morning. My name is Carol Rosen. In 1974, after being a sixth grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, "Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space." And I said, teachers don't stop until June. He said, "No, you have to understand. This is February. And we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies," he said, "against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system. The first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids." And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat. Well, at the time, I kind of laughed when he said asteroids, and when he said extraterrestrials, I knew I wasn't going to deal with that subject. And now we hear on the news just today, this week, that they've slid in another enemy. Only this time we're going to protect our satellites. In other words, we have to have some reason to spend these trillions, to waste these dollars on a space-based weapon system, and they're all lies. This is a system, he told me, that would never protect anyone. Even back then, he talked about suitcase bombs. He talked about chemical, viral, bacterial, biological warfare, that these space-based weapons would never protect us against. And then he told me that, in fact, if you travel around the world, which I did after he died in 1977, I met with people in over 100 countries who were friends. They didn't want to build space-based weapons. I became a space and missile defense consultant, and I worked with people around the world. I became an advisor to the People's Republic of China. They don't want to build a space-based weapon system, and he told me back then that they didn't. He said, "Go to Russia. They're considered to be the enemy." I got on a plane by myself. When I got to Russia, I had a list of people that I had read out of the newspaper. Chernenko was in office then. He was the only one I didn't get a chance to meet. They introduced me to everyone when I got there. And when I got back, I said, "Oh my Lord, this man is telling the truth. There is no threat." And I've been waiting until this day for 27 years, and I'm expecting the spin to happen, because he also explained to me that as a military strategist, as a person who worked on the MX missile, which I did later, he said, "You will find that there is going to be a spin to find some enemy against whom we have to build space-based weapons." And now we should expect the spin, because he said part of the formula for the intelligence community is if they might have a weapon, then we have to consider that they do have these weapons. So now they do have these weapons, so now we have to build these weapon systems. And that's the formula, except that it's all based on a lie.
Many of you may be asking yourselves, as you look at and as you're able to witness firsthand prophecy unfolding, wars and rumors of wars taking place in the earth, almost every day or every other day, it's like we're drawing closer and closer to what many would call the Third World War. And some of you all may be asking, well, what is this all leading to? What's the end of all this? Well, we're going to try to discuss that tonight, but before we do so, let's see if we can get a few shout outs for those who are with us this evening Put your name, your city, your state, the body you're representing. Go ahead, put that in the chat. We'll give you a quick shout out before we jump into this evening's broadcast. All right, shalom, shalom. All right, we got J2 the Brew 313 from Wichita, Kansas. We got Erica 877 from Stockett, Montana. All right, we got Brother Erwin Thompson. Shalom, Brother Erwin, representing the Dallas body. We got Nakwaya Nabala, representing Philadelphia. We got, let's see, we got Ak Horad 2613, representing the San Antonio, Texas body. We got Howard Teller 703 or 73007, representing the California body. We got Chantel Kater, representing the DMV body. Premier CMOS, representing Detroit. We got Team Man 4810, representing ATL, Atlanta, Georgia. All right, Mike James 2902, representing Delaware. Who else we have with us? All right, Judah Homecoming, also representing GOCC ATL. We got I Am Nikki'sville 6047, representing Simeon in Costa Rica. We got Miss Cool, Sister Candice Milka from the North Carolina body. All right, we got Robe from B-More, DMV body. Angel Caraway from North Carolina. All right. All right, all praise be to the Most High. For those I couldn't shout out specifically, I want to give a big shout out, a big shalom to you all. Much love to you all. And I pray you all are having a blessed week up until this point. So again, getting straight to it. We'll make our announcements a bit later, but getting straight into our broadcast for today. Again, what is this all leading to? What are the governments of the earth and their militaries eventually being led to? Whether they want to move towards this end or not. Whether they want this as an end game or not, this is where the governments and their militaries are eventually moving towards. This is their end, according to prophecy. So what do I mean by this is their end? Let's get into it. I'm going to show you something real quick. Fair use for educational purposes only. Again, fair use for educational purposes only.
Here, an artist's projection of the president's vision.
Banning into space, a layered defense to protect the country from nuclear devastation. U.S. spy satellites would watch the world below. Detect Soviet missiles blasting off. Compute the position and speed of each missile. Alert battle stations in space, on Earth. The first response. Space-based kinetic energy weapons fire high-speed projectiles from hypervelocity guns, intercepting enemy missiles as they are boosted through the atmosphere. Popped up into space, Earth-based nuclear-powered X-ray lasers fire their radioactive rays. Attack rays from land-based excimer lasers are redirected by huge mirrors orbiting in space. Chemical lasers fire beams that burn through the shell of the onrushing missile.
Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Particle beam weapons with pulsing rays join the attack. Still over the atmosphere, the missile bus ejects its cargo, multiple nuclear warheads. Soviet missiles now arc towards the U.S., ground-based projectiles are volleyed into space. Their giant steel ribs shatter the enemy weapons. The final minute. The surviving warheads enter the atmosphere above the United States, are attacked by laser-equipped planes. Earth-based lasers and ABM rockets eliminate the last warheads.
The administration's original claim for the Strategic Defense Initiative was that it would be a perfect...
All right, let me play that again. One more time.
Here, an artist's projection of the president's vision.
Banning into space, a layered defense to protect the country from nuclear devastation. U.S. spy satellites would watch the world below.
So in space, a defense program that would protect the Earth, specifically America, from its enemies. Now, in this depiction, you can see the missiles. They have CCCP on it. So obviously, the perceived enemy in this particular depiction is the Soviet Union.
Detect Soviet missiles blasting off. Compute the position and speed of each missile. Alert battle stations in space, on Earth. The first response. Space-based kinetic energy weapons fire high-speed projectiles from hypervelocity guns, intercepting enemy missiles as they are boosted through the atmosphere. Popped up into space, Earth-based nuclear-powered X-ray lasers fire their radioactive rays. Attack rays from land-based excimer lasers are redirected by huge mirrors orbiting in space. Chemical lasers fire beams that burn through the shell of the onrushing missile. Particle beam weapons with pulsing rays join the attack. Still over the atmosphere, the missile bus ejects its cargo, multiple nuclear warheads.
But this whole, what you're witnessing right here was also supposed to protect them also from the Soviet Union. Okay? This is a very old film. All right? I'm going to explain what you're watching in a moment.
As the remaining Soviet missiles now arc towards the U.S., ground-based projectiles are volleyed into space. Their giant steel ribs shatter the enemy weapons. The final minute. The surviving warheads enter the atmosphere above the United States, are attacked by laser-equipped planes. Earth-based lasers and ABM rockets eliminate the last warheads.
The administration's original claim for the Strategic Defense Initiative was that it would be a perfect...
All right. So what did you all just watch?
That's the sound of an American oil company hard at work. Want to be a...
Let me get this moving there. 1 second. All right, there we go. All right, so what did you all just watch? All right, let me show you something real quick. All right, this is coming from Wikipedia. Many of you ask, well, is that real? All right, does that really exist? Did it ever exist? Let's see. The Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, derisively nicknamed the Star Wars program, was a proposed missile defense system intended to protect the United States from attack by ballistic nuclear missiles. The program was announced in 1983 by President Ronald Reagan, a vocal critic of the doctrine of mutual assured destruction, which he described as a suicide pact. Reagan called for a system that would end MAD, or the mutual assured destruction, pact and render nuclear weapons obsolete. Elements of the program reemerged in 2019 under the Space Development Agency, or the SDA. So if you ask, well, was that real? Well, the depiction, as far as what they were contemplating, it was a real idea. Okay, this was an idea put forth by Ronald Reagan in 1983 to show how long they've been speaking about, or at least contemplating, putting things in space: satellites, laser weapons, defense systems that would allow them on the surface to defend themselves against their enemies. I'm going to read a little bit more of this, and then we're going to transition, because, again, on the surface, this would seem like a necessity, right? And I'm going to explain why. But let me just read a little bit more of this. It says the Strategic Defensive Initiative Organization, or SDIO, was set up in 1984 within the U.S. Department of Defense to oversee development, advanced weapon concepts, including lasers, particle beam weapons, and ground-based missile systems were studied, along with sensor, command control, and computer systems needed to control a system consisting of hundreds of combat centers and satellites spanning the globe. So this was an actual plan that they were at least contemplating back as far as 1983. How many of you ever heard of this, the Star Wars program? All right, you can go ahead and give a black hand if you have heard of this. Put a 1 in the chat, whatever you would like to do, just to see, who heard of this, who hasn't. Put a 1 in the chat if you haven't heard of this. Put a black hand up if you have. How many of you have ever heard of the Star Wars program, or the Strategic Defense Initiative? All right, all thanks to the Most High, says Khan. Sister Cooper says Khan. All right, there are capabilities with ancient battle weapons from the fallen realm. All right. All right, so a lot of you never heard of it. A few of you have. Okay. So this was something they were at least contemplating back in this time. Now, again, understanding the nature of war, we understand that through time, the nature of war has changed. Real quick, let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 9, verse number 4. The book of Isaiah chapter 9, in fact, let's make it Isaiah chapter 9, verse number 5, to show you how much war has changed. Before we go there, we're going to first go to the book of St. Matthew chapter 24, verse number 3, where it says, St. Matthew 24 and 3, where it says, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Yeshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So to give some context, we understand that the apostles are asking Christ, what shall be the signs leading up to the end of the world? Okay, leading up to the second coming and the end of this age. Jumping down to verse number 6, Christ says, And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So we know that war is indicative of the signs leading up to the end of the world, signs leading up to Christ's second coming. So as we often state, for us to know these signs and to witness these signs and to see what's coming in the earth, it would be illogical. It would be insane for us to see all of this and not to prepare. Well, the same exact thing goes for the nations who are ruling the earth. It would be foolish for these nations to see all that is transpiring and to be involved in conflicts, to have been involved in past conflicts. And those past conflicts are still brewing in the earth. There's still undercurrents from those past conflicts that are fueling present conflicts and eventually will move forward to future conflicts. So if you're a domineering nation in the earth with a military and a government in a country, you would be foolish not to prepare for this time. By preparation, as a military, one of the ways you prepare is what? Through weaponry, through technological advances, advanced capabilities. This is how you stay ahead of the curve. So let's see what the Bible says about warfare and how it has changed through time. And because warfare has changed, the way that you fight war must also change. The way that wars have been fought have been changed over the last century. Okay? So let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 9, verse number 5, and let's see what it says about warfare. Isaiah 9 and 5 says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood." So we've all seen depictions of ancient warfare where it's hand-to-hand combat, sword-to-sword combat, sword and shield combat, shield and spear combat, bow and arrow combat, which really that was a hell of an advancement where you could strike from long distance. But now the warfare has changed. No longer is it sword and shield, hand to hand. Even though you may find yourself in those situations, really, those are like last resorts, okay? The way that war is fought, in fact, let's let the Bible explain it. It goes on to say, "But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." This shall be with burning and fuel of fire. What is the Bible telling us? That eventually warfare would advance. No longer is it just sword, shield, axe, bow and arrow, catapult. Now we have what? We have advanced weapons capabilities. Okay? Guns, advanced defense systems, tanks, grenades, missile launchers. Okay? The level of warfare has advanced well beyond what was going on in the days of Isaiah. Now they have missiles that can travel continents, intercontinental ballistic missiles, which was what this whole space program, if we go back to this the space program that was mentioned, the Star Wars program, which is what this was all about. at least on the surface. Again, we're dealing with this initially on the surface, but we're going to go a little bit deeper in a moment. On the surface, warfare has changed. So again, if you're a nation in the earth and you got skin in the game, you're trying to protect yourself and your interest, well, you got to make sure that your weapons are up to speed, up to code, to fight modern warfare. Right? The book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse number 4. Daniel 12 and 4 tells us, the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse number 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. And many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase, or shall be increased. So if knowledge is increasing, you can only expect technology to increase. You can only expect weaponry to increase. You can only expect the way that wars are fought to now advance well beyond the times of Isaiah, the times of Daniel, the times of John the Revelator. So they prophesied of these times in which we would be in an information age, in which knowledge would be well beyond, and the way that knowledge is obtained will be well beyond our imagination. So what does that say about, again, how wars are fought? They're going to be fought much differently, much more advanced, with much more weaponry and types of weapons than were available at this time. That's what we can expect. So again, on the surface, a nation, it would be in their best interest to have certain programs in place to protect themselves from modern capabilities. If you got a missile that can go from one continent to the next, how do you protect yourself from that missile? Well, Reagan thought, let me get back to it. It's what Reagan thought.
Ready to start a hands-on career? At Universal Technical Institute,
you can get... Matt is here. 1 second. There we go. This is what Reagan thought. He thought that this
of the president's vision
would be the best way
Banning into space, a layered defense to protect the country from nuclear devastation.
His country,
U.S. spy satellites would watch the world below,
warfare,
detect Soviet missiles blasting off, compute the position and speed of each missile, alert battle stations in space, on Earth. The first response. Space-based kinetic energy weapons fire high-speed projectiles from hypervelocity guns, intercepting enemy missiles as they are boosted through the atmosphere. Popped up into space, Earth-based nuclear-powered X-ray lasers fire their radioactive rays.
X-ray lasers. Look at this. This is from the 80s.
Attack rays from land-based excimer lasers are...
In the 80s, they're already talking about laser technology. Laser weapons, laser defense shields that could stop missiles. Now, again, at this time, it was hypothetical. They didn't go through with it at this time. But let's go back to what we read here. Here it says, the program was announced in 1983 by President Ronald Reagan, a vocal critic of the doctrine of mutual assured destruction, which he described as a suicide pact. Reagan called for the system that would end MAD and render nuclear weapons obsolete. Elements of the program reemerged in 2019 under the Space Development Agency. That leads us here. Here we see what is called the United States Space Force. We've talked about this in the past. The United States Space Force. We go to their mission statement. Let's go there real quick, see what they say. The U.S. Space Force was established in December 20th, 2019. Remember, it says elements of the program reemerged in 2019 under the Space Development Agency. So in December 2019, it says this Space Force was established, creating the first new branch of the armed forces since 1947. The establishment of the USSF resulted from widespread recognition that space is a national security imperative. Very similar language to what we saw in that video, where they were talking about creating a Star Wars program or a system, a security system in space for the sake of national security, protecting the nation, if you will. When combined with the growing threat posed by strategic competitors in space, it became clear that there was a need for a military service focused solely on pursuing superiority in the space domain. Jumping down, it says investments in space capabilities have increased the effectiveness of operations in every other domain. The United States military is faster, better connected, more informed, more precise, and more lethal because of its ability to harness space effectively. The same premise, that space is critical, holds true for the average American. Space capabilities are woven into the fabric of daily life. Satellites connect people in every corner of the globe, from monitoring weather patterns to carrying television broadcasts. So in other words, they're stating that not only does the military have an invested interest in space, but also the everyday person has an invested interest in space, right? Your cell phones, your televisions, what we're using right now, the internet. Okay? A lot of this stuff is working off of satellite capabilities, which allows us to carry signals from one continent to the next, one country to the next, one state to the next, one city to the next. Right? So this is on the surface. This is what they're providing us on the surface. Now, we know that this is a continuation. We know that this is pretty much built upon the same ideals as Reagan's Star Wars program, which was a military-based program. Okay? It wasn't just for the ability to make calls on the cell phone or to watch TV, right? Or to use computers and things of that nature. That wasn't the overall purpose of that. Okay? It was for the purpose of protecting the country through warfare. Again, on the surface. But are they preparing for something else? We know the nations are at war with one another. We're seeing it escalating on a daily basis. And it's to the point where, regardless of ethnicity, it don't matter, Esau versus Ham, Esau versus the tribes in South America, or we're even seeing And really, this has been going on since Esau has gotten into power. You know, there's never really been a time in which Esau hasn't fought against and gone against and rivaled other Edomites. Okay, that's been going on since he rose to power. Since the time of Alexander, you had his generals who competed for power, who competed for dominance. Right? But the point I'm making is the fact that we know that the nations are at war with one another, and they're vying for power against one another, vying for dominance, one against another. But what is all of the wars leading to? What is all of this leading to? Real quick, let's go to the book of Acts, the first chapter. The book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 6. What do we know about Christ's death, resurrection, ascension, and eventual return? What do we know about this according to Scripture? The book of Acts, chapter 1, verse number 6. Acts 1 and 6. When they therefore were come together, speaking about the apostles and the disciples and those who were learning under Christ, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? So what were the apostles of Christ looking for? They were looking for restoration. They were looking for the time in which the nation of Israel would be restored. Christ says in response, and he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Spirit is come upon you. And ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the utmost part of the earth. And when he had spoken these things while they beheld, check this out, he was taken up. He, Christ, was taken up. He ascended. And a cloud received him out of their sight. Now, if we witness this in our time, the powers that be, their military, their government and their military, would have labeled this as a UFO sighting. In the way Christ ascended, they probably would have called it an abduction. Right? They would have labeled this a UFO, or the new term, a UAP sighting. It says that he was taken up and a cloud received him out of their sight. Now check this out. Y'all remember earlier, last year, there was a big hoopla about UFO hearings. Y'all remember this? All right, let me get this out of here 1 second. All right. The truth is out there. Congress to hold the hearings on UFOs. The world totally forgot about this. there was a time in which this was, for at least a few weeks, this was at the top of the news cycle. A House task force focused on government transparency, announced it will hold a hearing next week concerning unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs, another name for unidentified flying objects, or UFOs. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who chairs the House Oversight and Government Reforms Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets, said in a statement on Wednesday that the panel will push for maximum transparency from the government. The American people deserve maximum transparency from the federal government on sightings, acquisitions, and examinations of UAPs, and whether they pose a potential threat to Americans' safety, she said. Okay? Which on the surface, when they come out with stuff like this about UFOs and things of that nature, and they come out with it on a military level, this is another way that they vie for more money to be added to the military budget. Okay? There's an existential threat to American citizens coming from outer space. Therefore, we need to increase our budget. We need more money so that we can build advanced capabilities, more advanced weapons, so that in the case of an invasion, we can protect ourselves, right? So on the surface, this is how they get money. Okay? But again, looking at it below the surface, we look at it on the surface. Now we got to go a little bit deeper and understand why are they. Let's take what we just read about the UFO hearings. Again, you can go and watch them on YouTube, talking about hours of hearings of them talking about, finding, coming across, witnessing, capturing UAPs, UFOs. Okay. So we saw that last year, but you couple this with the space program, and the space program having the ultimate end game of protecting America from an existential or outside external threat. Okay? Primarily a foreign threat. The question is, would this not count as a foreign threat? Let's read this again. Let's go back to the Bible. Would this not count as a foreign threat? Let's read this. Acts 1:9. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. So that's your UAP right there. That's your UFO right there. Check this out, verse 10. Would this not count as a foreign threat? And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yeshua, or this same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye seen him go into heaven. So the same way he left into heaven is the same way he's coming back from heaven. Would this not be considered a foreign threat? Many people may say, well, not necessarily, because after all, we love Jesus. We love Christ. We are, after all, a Judeo-Christian society. We would love for Jesus to return to the earth and show us all the love and all the grace and all the mercy and all the wonderful, beautiful things that the gospel speaks of. Let's wait 1 second. Because, yes, Christ is returning. But he's not returning by himself. He's returning with a purpose and with an army. Real quick, let's go to the book of St. John 18 and 36. St. John 18, verse number 36. This is how Christ is coming back. This is what's on Christ's mind. Okay, this is what will be on Christ's mind, and we're going to develop this and build upon this a bit later, but this is what will be on Christ's mind as he returns. Check this out. St. John chapter 18 and verse number 36. This is Christ speaking. Yeshua answered, "My kingdom is not of this world," meaning Christ's kingdom was not of this current Roman Idumean society. Okay? My kingdom is not of this society. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. So we know, based on what Christ is telling us, because his kingdom is not of this world, because it was not his time to rule, it was not time to fight. But remember, we read in the book of Acts, the first chapter, that number one, the apostles were waiting for the restoration of Israel. We know with the restoration of Israel, that ushers in the kingdom of Christ. That's number one. We also know that Christ is returning to this earth, according to the book of Acts 1 and 11. What is he coming for? He's coming to restore his people. And in order to restore his people, he must first take down the kingdoms of this earth, which have operated in opposition to his people. So no, Christ didn't fight the first go round because it wasn't time. But once he returns, as the angel stated, the same way he was taken up is the same way he's going to return. And when he returns, he's going to have war on his mind. Christ is coming back to fight. And as I mentioned, he's not coming back by himself. Going to the book of St. Luke, making St. Matthew chapter 16, verse number 27. St. Matthew 16 and 27. Matthew 16 and 27 says, "For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels." For the Son of Man, Christ, shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels. And then they shall reward, or then he shall reward Every man according to his work. So Christ is coming back with the angels. They're not coming back to skip through the tulips with you. They're not coming back to shake hands or to kiss babies. They're coming back for war. So what does this mean for the nations of the earth? And does this explain why they would have to contemplate a Star Wars program during the time of Reagan? Does this explain why they would need a United States Space Force? Does this explain why Israel would need a Space Force, a Space Defense Force? Does this explain why the nations, of course, again, we dealt with the surface. We understand that they're at war one with another. So, in order to win the war, you got to have the bigger and better guns. We got that. We understand that. But with some of the weapons they're creating, some of the things we're hearing about, we're talking about things that can make you invisible. We're talking about advanced weapons that can, in fact, let me show you some examples. I can show you some examples better than I could tell you. Let's get some examples of some of the things that we're hearing about just on a low level. And these are things that are being used. These are things that are being used and tested out. When America goes and they invade other places, you hear about some of these things that they like to test out. Some of their weapons capabilities. All right, I'm trying to get this. This is a lot of fluff when you're trying to navigate with these websites here. 1 second. All right. See, I'm trying to get past this. It's almost impossible for me to get. There we go. All right. All right. Let me get the. Godly. 1 second. There we go. All right. All right. That should be better. All right. Let me make some adjustments. All right. That's better. Much better. What the alleged sonic weapon used in Venezuela may actually have been. Claims that a mysterious sonic weapon was used in Venezuela have fueled speculation about exotic U.S. military technology and its potential effects on the human body. One eyewitness account from Venezuela, or from a Venezuelan guard, shared on social media by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, claimed the weapon brought Venezuelan and Cuban security forces to their knees, bleeding through their nose and vomiting. Why would this be necessary? Why is this technology necessary? It says that there were claims of a sonic weapon that caused Venezuelan and Cuban security forces to be brought to their knees, bleeding through their nose and vomiting blood. Why are these weapons necessary? Reading on a little bit, it says, while the Trump administration has not confirmed what weapon, if any, may have been used, defense experts point to a well-known acoustic device that has been used or been in use for years. Known as a long-range acoustic device, it's been described as the voice of God. What a name. According to Mark Cancian, a retired Marine lieutenant colonel and senior advisor for the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The device deploys a direct, short-range cone of sound. It's not like a microphone, you know, where everybody's neighborhood. It's only within this cone, says Cancian. U.S. operators may have developed it as they were landing on the ground in Caracas, Venezuela, or they may have deployed it as they were landing in Venezuela as a way to disorient security forces and warn them to drop their weapons. LRADs can project spoken commands at intense volumes or emit a loud, piercing tone designed to get attention and deter movement. At close range, the sound can be painful and disorienting, and in extreme cases can damage hearing or rupture eardrums. But the devices are not designed to cause lasting physical harm, says who? It can cause pain and temporarily disorientation and can cause ruptured eardrums, but it is not designed to inflict long-term damage. Right? And it goes on and on. Why are these types of weapons necessary? So again, we understand on the surface, as you can see with Venezuela, it didn't take much for them to, from what we're hearing, it took maybe about 20 men on the ground to do what needed to be done, based on them being able to use these advanced weapons, right? It makes the job much easier. All right. So, man, all right, there we go. So it makes the job much easier. Exactly. As Grace Above Gold said, go ask the people who this was used on. Ask them how they feel after this weapon was used on them. Okay? Go ask them how they feel today. And see if it don't have long-term or long-lasting effects. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Right? So again, we understand on the surface level, but why would they need to go in this to this extent to create these types of weapons which seem otherworldly? And it seems like this weapon is so otherworldly that they've effectually called it or labeled it the voice of God. So the name itself, or the nickname at least for it, has spiritual undertones. So the question is, are these weapons, do they have a dual purpose? Though they have their use in physical war, are these weapons being created to eventually fight a spiritual war, where now you're dealing with an otherworldly enemy, where regular conventional weapons just won't do. Bullets just won't do. Grenades just won't do. Missile launchers and tanks just won't do. Landmines just won't do. It won't work. Not against what's coming out the sky. Real quick, let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse number 39. First Corinthians 15 and 39. And before we do so, let's get some more. Let's get one more example. Let's get one more example of advanced weapons being used and tested on, in this case, civilian populations. All right, let me get this set up for you so you can see this nice and clear. All right. All right, so this is the Waikiki. I wanted to show this. I wanted to show the actual footage from the documentary, but I can't show it if I wanted to, because when they show the effects, they show the actual effects of some of the weapons they use, and it's too gory to show on YouTube. Okay, but you can watch it. The documentary is free on YouTube for those who would like to go back and watch it. This is a very good documentary, and believe it or not, how they went into Panama parallels almost exactly how they went into Venezuela. And some of the same things they did, for those who watch it, you're going to realize some of the same things they did in Panama, they did also in Venezuela. Okay, even down to the propaganda that forced them or gave them the excuse to go into Venezuela. Okay, it's going to parallel exactly. But the main thing I wanted to point out, this is from the documentary Panama Deception. The Panama Deception is a 1992 American documentary film critical of the 1989 United States invasion of Panama. Okay, you want to get this, if you can, try to download it. Very good documentary. Okay, disheartening, heartbreaking, but nonetheless a good documentary. The film states that the U.S. government invaded Panama in order to destroy the PDF, the Panama Defense Forces, which were perceived as a threat to U.S. control over Panama, and install a government which would be friendly to the U.S. interests. So when you get into it, the U.S., in fact, they explain it here. It says, the film also argued that the true purpose of the invasion was to prevent then scheduled retrocession of the Panama Canal Zone to Panama as agreed in the Torrijos-Carter treaties, rather than stated justification of removing Manuel Noriega from power due to his indictment in the U.S. courts on racketeering and drug trafficking charges. So it had nothing to do with Noriega being a drug trafficker. They knew that when they put him in power. Okay, he was installed, he was raised up, trained, and installed by the U.S. So they knew exactly what he was doing. But eventually, Noriega, like many other people the U.S. set up, they got tired of being the do boy or the do boys for the U.S. Okay, so they used him as an excuse to eventually invade Panama. Panama ultimately gained full control over the Canal Zone on December 31st, 1999, fulfilling the terms of the Torrijos-Carter Agreement. So it was an agreement that if Panama Defense Forces could protect the Canal Zone, the Panama Canal Zone, the control over that zone would be re-given, okay, or given back to the Panamanian government or the Panamanian people. So they stated that the defense forces became a target in the attacks. They wanted to deplete and destroy the defense forces of Panama to prevent them from being able to actually protect the Canal Zone. And if they couldn't protect the Canal Zone, then see, because you guys can't protect it, we can't give it back to you. Okay? Well, the reason they can't protect it is because you depleted their defense forces under false pretenses. That's a whole nother discussion for another day. Here's the point I wanted to get to. The film includes footage of what are claimed to be mass graves uncovered after the American troops had withdrawn, and footage of burned down neighborhoods refers to alleged use of experimental weapons, including supposed secret laser or beam type weapons. Let me read that again. The film includes footage of what are claimed to be mass graves uncovered after the American troops had withdrawn, and footage of burnt down neighborhoods, meaning they weren't going after Noriega. They were attacking civilians. They were burning down residential neighborhoods. Refers to the alleged use of experimental weapons. So they were using, according to many reports of people on the ground, they were using experimental weapons in Panama, including supposed secret laser or beam type weapons. And again, when you watch the movie, I mean, it's heartbreaking. Okay, so much so I couldn't even show it on today's broadcast. Okay, they were using this on innocent people, and presents depictions of some of the 20,000 refugees who fled the fighting. So again, we understand that they like to test these weapons out on civilian populations or against other militaries. We understand that. But why would you need, what would cross your mind to believe that you need laser beams to fight off opponents or opposing forces? Lasers. Again, could it be that some of these weapons, okay, as outlandish as they may sound, you may think that there's no reason for you, excuse me, there's no reason for you to have to use a laser. But could it be that some of these technologies that are being tested against opposing militaries, that are being tested on civilians, could it be that they are preparing for war against, excuse me, could it be that they're preparing for war against other worldly forces? What do I mean by otherworldly? When you go to the book of 1 Corinthians 15 and 39, it says the following. First Corinthians 15 and 39. Okay. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. There are celestial bodies. Celestial meaning pertaining to the heavens or pertaining to the stars. Okay? Celestial. There are celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial. Terrestrial meaning pertaining to the terrain. By terrain meaning earth or earthly or earthy. So you have heavenly bodies and you have earthly bodies. Now, it's interesting that the word they use for earthly bodies is terrestrial, which again means of this terrain. Terrestrial. So we are considered terrestrial. Anything that is above us is considered extraterrestrial, meaning above the terrain, above this earth. So angels by default are extraterrestrial. These are what this world would refer to as alien life or alien life forms, alien beings. And when we say alien, we're not talking about the greens or the grays or any of that madness. We're talking about the angels of God. But because they're not of this plane, they're not of this terrain, they're not of this earth, they're above this earth, we understand that they would be considered extraterrestrial. Going to the book of Psalms. Psalms chapter 8. And verse number 4. What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels. So mankind was made lower, or of a lower essence, a lower substance than the angels. So again, angels, angelic beings, are above mankind. They are above this terrain. They are extraterrestrial, according to this society. Okay? So, what is their essence? What is the essence of the angels? Well, you go to the book of Psalms 104 and 4, and it tells us, who maketh his angels spirits. So we know angels are spiritual beings. They are spiritual beings. So if we understand this, then you cannot fight when it comes to trying to fight. Number one, you can't fight them anyway, but if you're going to attempt to fight the angels, you can't use the same weapons that you would use to fight against man. If you're going to fight something that's otherworldly or not of this world, not of this earth, you can't use the same weapons that you would use to fight something that is of this earth, that is of this terrain. You need advanced weaponry. You're going to need things such as lasers, even though it won't work. But if the ultimate plan is to fight the spiritual realm, if the ultimate plan is to fight the angelic realm, you're going to need something well beyond what the world is accustomed to when we're talking about weapons. You're going to need things that help you and allow you to disappear. You're going to need satellites in space that have the ability to detect movements and have the ability to see millions of miles away. Because in your mind, in their thwarted mind, this is what gives them the edge. Okay? So let's get into the angels real quick. Okay? Proverbs 15:3 says, the eyes of the Lord, which are the angels, are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. So the angels, they're the archetype for what you would call satellites. Satellites have an ability to monitor, to transmit information. Some satellites have the ability to visualize and again witness things millions of miles away. Okay? In other words, they create these technologies to monitor the earth, monitor every single thing that's going on in the life of everybody in every minute and every second. Okay? Which that ability goes back to the Most High and the angels. It's the angels that are in every place beholding the evil and the good. So what does the enemy do? Trying to be like the Most High, he will create similar technology. But, again, who is man to reply against God? Can man fight against the Most High? Can he contend with God? While you're watching us, the Most High and the angels are watching you. While you're talking about military secrets and secret plans and secret weapons and experimental weapons and all these different things, the Most High got the angels watching and viewing and visualizing and taking in everything. There is no secret plans and no secret weapons when it comes to the Most High. Okay? The Most High and the angels, they have their eyes on you. And we're going to show you who the angels, who they will fight for. We're going to show you who they're going to fight against, and we're going to show you who they fight for. So I'm saying this because when we talk about things like this, it's a natural thing to have fear and anxiety, to think that they got things that can project sound that can cause people to be nauseated, cause people to vomit blood and eardrums to burst. It's natural to think, well, what happens if that's used against me? Well, again, we have a highly intelligent, all-powerful, all-knowing military force fighting on our side. Okay? So we have nothing to fear. Okay? So getting back to it, we're showing you why it would be necessary that if you're going to try to contend with Christ and the angels, you would have to contend using weapons that are far beyond imagination, far beyond anything that we can even comprehend. And what we're seeing and what we're hearing, the lasers and all that stuff, that's just on the surface. These are just the things we know of. They got all types of weapons that they have been creating, they've been experimenting with, that they believe will give them an edge if they were to go to war with other worldly beings. Now, they're calling it UFO. They're calling it UAP. But as we've showed you, if Christ was to return into this earth as the Bible prophesied, how would he be viewed? He'd be viewed no different than any other UFO, any other UAP, any other foreign entity that poses a threat to quote unquote national security. So let's get into the angels. Let's get back. Let's go to the book of Genesis 19:1. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face to the ground. So this is two angels. Okay, two angels. And I want you to hold this in mind. Keep this in mind that we got two angels entering into the land of Sodom. Just two. Jumping down to verse number 16. And while he lingered, meaning while Lot lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his two daughters. And the Lord being merciful unto him, they brought him forth and set him without the city. So this is another capability of the angels. They have the ability to teleport. They have the ability to teleport instantaneously, move from one location to the next. You have one story, I believe it's Bel and the Dragon, where an angel comes to the prophet, I want to say the prophet Zacharias. Zacharias is in the land of Israel at the time that the angel reveals himself to him. And instantaneously, in fact, let me go there real quick. Let me see if I can find it, because it leans into what we're showing. Again, we're talking about the capabilities of the angels and why it would be necessary to create advanced weapons. Okay, almost supernatural or advanced weapons to fight the supernatural. Let's go there real quick in Bel and the Dragon. Okay, for this we're going into the KJV Apocrypha. Okay, the KJV Apocrypha. Many of you have your Bibles with the Apocrypha in it. And many of you have this separate book outside of your traditional KJV known as the Apocrypha. Now we're going to go into this book and we're going to get what is called the history of Bel and the dragon. Okay, so this is connected with Daniel. So let me go to the book of Daniel. All right, where's the book of Daniel? All right, there we go. The book of Daniel, and let's see. The book of Daniel, chapter 14. All right. So let's get it. Let's get the exact reference. Okay, Habakkuk, not Zechariah. It was Habakkuk. Okay, the prophet Habakkuk. This is Bel and the Dragon. This is, well, in Eastward, they call it Daniel 14 and 33. It says, now there was in Jewry, meaning among the Jews, a prophet called Habakkuk, who had made pottage and had broken bread in a bowl and was going into the field for to bring it to the reapers. But the angel of the Lord said unto Habakkuk, go, carry the dinner that thou hast into Babylon. And keep in mind, Habakkuk is in the land of Israel. He's amongst the Jews in Israel. And the angel is telling him to take his dinner into Babylon unto Daniel, who was in the lion's den. And Habakkuk said, Lord, I never saw Babylon, neither do I know where the den is. So he said, I've never been to Babylon, and if I was in Babylon, I still wouldn't know exactly where this lion's den is located. Bel as in B-E-L. Okay, Bel, B-E-L. 36. Then the angel of the Lord took him by the crown and bare him by the hair of his head, and through the vehemency of his spirit set him in Babylon over the den. So the angel teleported Habakkuk from Israel all the way to Babylon. And he took him to the exact pinpoint location of the lion's den. Again, showing the capabilities of the angels. They have the ability to transport and teleport from one part of the earth all the way to another. We've seen it in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah with Lot and his family. And here we're seeing it with Habakkuk in the book Bel and the Dragon. So how do you contend with this? How do you fight against this? Okay? How do you fight against this? All right, getting back to the book of Genesis 19, and we're going to jump down to verse number 27. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where the Lord stood before, to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham. Okay? So we know that two angels went into the land of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it says that as they left, the Lord rained fire and brimstone on the land of Sodom and Gomorrah from heaven. When you go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10, it tells us that that area still serves as an example of an unbelieving soul. Wisdom of Solomon 10 and 6 says, when the ungodly perished, she delivered the righteous man, who fled from the fire which fell down from the 5 cities, of whose wickedness even to this day the wasteland that smoketh is a testimony. So that place was a wasteland when this record was written by Solomon, and is still a wasteland until this day. It's still a wasteland. Okay? So it serves as a testimony. Number one, it serves as a testimony that the story is true. It also serves as a testimony to the power of the Most High God. The fact that he was able to destroy the unrighteous, to destroy the wicked from heaven with fire and brimstone. And until this day, we can see the marks of the Most High's work. We can see the evidence of the Most High's destruction upon Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? So it says, and plants bearing fruit that never come to ripeness, and a standing pillar of salt is a monument of an unbelieving soul. Who is the unbelieving soul? We know her as Lot's wife. Right? So this is the power of the Almighty God. How do you contend with this? How do you war with this? Well, the nations, you're going to find out, they're going to try. Okay? They are going to try. Going to the book of Sirach, chapter 39. Again, we're showing you the capabilities of the angels. Because according to the book of Mark or Matthew 16 and 27, we know that Christ is returning with the angels. So what are the capabilities of these angels? And what else does the Most High have in his arsenal that allows him to war with these nations? Another example, the Tower of Babel, where the Most High didn't have to send anything. He didn't have to send no missiles. He didn't have to rain fire and brimstone. He didn't need no sound technology. The Most High simply sent the angels down to confound the language. And that was enough to prevent the purposes of mankind. The nations were in communion, in a confederacy against the Most High. And this tower was a mark of their confederacy, of their communion with one another, in rebellion against God. And to stop it, all the Most High had to do was confound the language. You make him speak this, you make him speak that. And that shut the whole thing down. So what happens when the Most High decides to really throw down? Okay? This is how deep, when the Most High says that my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, and my ways are higher than your ways. The Most High is the ultimate chess player. You can't contend with the Most High, but that won't stop the nations from doing so. And you're going to find out why. You're going to see why. The nations, they're going to see when Christ returns, a lot of the nations are going to look and say that we have no business trying to fight this man. Our weapons are inferior. Our capabilities are inferior. We have no business trying to war against this man. But yet, something is going to be driving them to fight anyway. But we're going to get to it. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's get into other ways that the Most High can war against mankind. Let's go to the book of Sirach, like Elder Yarack said, powder. Okay? You're going to see what the Bible says about what happens when the Most High puts his foot down on the nations. He says, in fact, we'll get it later when he says that they shall be beaten to powder. Okay? But let's get to the book of Sirach, chapter 39 and verse number 28, to show the various ways that the Most High can war against the nations. So the book of Sirach 39 and 28. There be spirits that be created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. So there are spirits that the Most High created specifically for vengeance. There are spirits that the Most High created specifically for the purpose of bringing forth his wrath in the earth. Let's see how these spirits work. There be spirits that be created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. So this is what the nations are up against. It's not just missile for missile, gunfire for gunfire, tank for tank, satellite for satellite. Okay? You're dealing with a whole nother beast when you're trying to war against the Most High and his forces, when you're trying to war against his son and his forces. You got a whole nother beast on your hands. Fire, hail, famine, death. All these were created for vengeance. Now let's check this out. You got fire, hail, which is what? You're talking about weather warfare. The nations think they have a grip on weather warfare and the ability to manipulate weather to damage and attack different areas of the earth. They think they have a bead on weather warfare. But the Most High is the creator of weather warfare. What did he send upon the Egyptians as one of the curses? He sent hail mingled with fire. How did the Most High destroy the old world? By causing it to rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. That's weather warfare. How can you contend with this? Okay, famine. How do you fight famine? Death. These are all things that ravish the military. These are all things that ravish an army. You go look at some of the greatest armies that have ever graced the planet. And you look at what destroyed or what caused a destruction of many of these armies, or a loss of many of the troops. It's usually what? Things such as famine, terrible weather, fire, death. This ravishes the military. So this is the power the Most High is playing with. Well beyond a laser beam. Okay? All these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beast. Okay, what can you do when the Most High send a pack of hyenas on you? Or a pack of lions on you? Okay? Or if the Most High send a whole brood of serpents against you? How do you fight against that? Okay? Again, when those nations, when they pretty much resettled and gentrified the land of Israel during the time of the king of Assyria, what did the Most High send amongst the nations, the disobedient nations? He sent lions among them. And it nearly ravished those nations to the point where they had to cop out and say, look, we got to figure out how to serve this God, because he's sending lions amongst us, and the lions are destroying us left and right. Okay? What do you do when the Most High sends a pack of lions to you, against you? Okay? A pride of lions. Okay? Scorpions, serpents, and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. They shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is. And when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word. How do you fight against this? And this is what the nations are up against. Okay? So a lot of times, again, this is why we say that we have to put our faith and trust in the Most High, because as many times where the nations may have certain, they may have certain machinations and ideas and plans of things they want to do against us, or things they want to do to harm the earth, and the Most High sends destruction by way of a storm, okay, by way of a catastrophe, right? And we witness it on earth, and we think, man, that was terrible that happened. When we don't realize that somebody think these things happen to stop and to thwart the plans of the enemy. Okay, a whole facility out of nowhere just catch fire. They try to send a space shuttle in space, and all of a sudden the thing just explodes mid-flight. Okay, this is the Most High fighting for his people in many cases. Okay. All right, moving on. Now we're going to deal with the return itself. Last portion. Let's deal with the return itself. All right, Joel 3 and verse number 1. Joel 3 and 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and he will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted among my land. So we read earlier in the book of Acts, the first chapter, that the disciples were looking for the restoration of Israel. And now we're seeing prophetically, we're seeing into the future, the fulfillment of what the disciples and the apostles were hoping for. They hoped for the restoration. It wasn't time for the restoration, but now we're seeing the prophecies that will lead to the restoration. Now we're seeing the prophecies that will lead to the Most High, or Christ, fighting for his kingdom. Remember, he said, my kingdom is not of my world, and if my kingdom were of this world, then me and my servants would fight. So it wasn't time back then. But again, we're seeing the future prophecy where that time is coming, where that time is being ushered in. Where now the Most High, it says that he will bring back, or bring again, the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. Now, bringing back the captivity don't mean that he's going to put us in captivity again. It means that the Most High sent out the spirit of captivity on us, and now he's going to bring back that spirit of captivity. He's going to call it back in. In other words, he's lifting up the spirit of captivity off of us. That's what it means when it says that he's bringing again, or bringing back, the captivity. Verse number 2 says, I will also, in fact, jump into verse 3, and they have cast lots for my people, and they have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. So the Most High did not forget what was done to his people. And the time is coming in which vengeance will be done against the nations for what was done against the Most High's people. The Most High didn't forget when you were trafficked and sold for commodities, sold for wine, sold for cotton, sold for tobacco, sold for guns, sold for rum. Okay? The Most High didn't forget how you were misused in these captivities. He didn't forget how you were used. Your children, our forefathers, foremothers were used as harlots, used as servants. Okay? The Most High didn't forget. So now we're seeing what? We're seeing the reckoning. We're seeing the day of the Lord's vengeance. Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Tyre and Zidon being the ancient land known as Phoenicia. Okay? Tyre and Zidon, those are the ancient lands where the Phoenicians, the ancient Phoenicians were. Okay? Called today Lebanon. Now you got Arabs there. So the Most High says, what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Why? Because you got Gentiles there now. Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. So the Israelites were cast out of their land. They were removed far from their border. Through what? Through captivity. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people afar off, for the Lord hath spoken it. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. In other words, prepare for war. So now we're understanding why the nations are being driven into this final war, this war of Armageddon. A spirit is being put on these nations. We're going to show you that prophetically. We may wonder why. Well, if the nations know the end of this, if they know what the end shall be, if they know that they lose this war, why fight the war anyway? Well, the reality is that they have no choice. The stage is being set to where everything that keeps the nations afloat, all of the resources and commodities that keep these nations afloat, it's been made to where just to maintain, and we're seeing this on the, we're seeing this day by day, just to maintain, these nations have to fight in order to maintain their existence. They have to continuously steal resources to maintain their existence. They have to think 3, 4, 5, 6, 20 steps ahead of what happens if they get cut off in any particular area of any important resource. If it gets cut off, where does that leave us? So it's their fight for survival that's driving them continually in war. Okay? So really, and that's on the low level. That's just on the surface. When you get into the depths of it, when you get into it scripturally, you'll understand that a spirit has been placed on these nations to where even if they wanted to, they could not stop the horses. Okay? They can't hold the horses. They can't stop the presses. They're going to keep pushing forward until it means their destruction. We're going to show you this according to the Bible. All right. But I say that in reference to Jeremiah or Joel 3:10. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Right. Those are farming tools, which represent peacetime, time of peace. But the Most High is saying that, listen, I'm removing the times of peace from the earth. Now it's time to prepare for war. So it's the Most High putting this spirit out that got the nations moving towards war. And those wars are starting with one another. But eventually they will escalate. They will elevate. I'm going to show you how. Let the weak say, I'm strong. Why? Because now the weak will have to stand on the front line of war. Okay? Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened. Let them come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For they will sit to judge all the heathen, or for I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. So again, verse 11 says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves round about. So what's causing the nations to continuously be in continual war? It's the Most High calling it forth. The Most High is pushing them. The Most High is putting the spirit on them to prepare for war. And this is what we're witnessing. Now we're witnessing it. We're watching it in real time. But this was prophesied thousands of years ago. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. So eventually it's going to lead to the ultimate war in the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is the valley of judgment or the valley of decision. Now, Jehoshaphat, we know, was a king of ancient Israel, okay? A king of Judah. And there's an actual area known as the valley of Jehoshaphat in the land of Israel, okay? But Jehoshaphat signifies judgment, okay? Jehoshaphat itself means he is judge, or God is judge. Okay? So this is leading up to God sitting in the position of judgment. Judgment over who? The heathen nations of the earth. For there I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. And that's what Jehoshaphat, the valley of Jehoshaphat, signifies. A valley of decision. A valley of judgment. The Most High says that the harvest is ripe. The fats are full, or the press is full, the fats overflow, or the vats overflow. The nations in their wickedness and their crimes against the nation of Israel have come to the full. Now it's time to do what? Now it's time to allow the nations to reap what they've sown. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. Okay? All right. Now let's show that there's a spirit driving the nations to war. Now we know the Most High is at the head of it all. He's controlling the whole scene. Okay? He's in control of the whole scene. But there's many moving parts, just like a movie. You got your overall director and producer who's putting the whole thing together, but there's many moving parts. There's many players in the movie. Okay? So let's see who the other players are. Let's go to the book of Revelation chapter 16 and verse number 12. Verse number 12 says, Revelation 16 and 12, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of Almighty God. So what are we seeing? There are spirits that are driving the nations to their destruction. It says there are spirits of devils working miracles. Okay, these spirits are doing many great things, showing these nations many great technologies, convincing the nations that, yeah, you can win. You can win this war. Okay? And this is why the nations, this is why you see these moves being made that don't make sense. They can only end in the destruction of this country. Okay? It can only end in the destruction of this country. But something is emboldening the governments of this earth, the government particularly of this country. They're being emboldened somehow, some way to believe that they have a chance to alienate themselves and stand against the world by themselves. What's happening? There are spirits operating at play, deceiving them, making them think that, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, alienate yourself. Yeah, just keep putting the terrorists on. Just lay it on thick. Okay? They can't do nothing about it. And then the same spirits, they in the ears of the other nations, stirring up the other nations, getting them moving. Okay? So this is what the nations are at war with. All right? And again, the Most High is directing the whole thing. Okay? No different than in the time of, what king was that? Was it Jehoshaphat when the Spirit came and the Most High said, listen, I need this king. In fact, let's go to it. There was an instance in where the Most High wanted to judge a king, and he had a council in the heavens. All right, 1 Kings 22. Let's read it real quick. 1 Kings 22. And let's start at verse number 19. And he said, hear there thou for the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, who shall persuade Ahab that he may go and fall at Ramoth Gilead? So this is King Ahab, the husband of Jezebel. And the Lord is asking amongst the heavenly council, who's going to persuade Ahab to go and fall at Ramoth Gilead? So the Most High is calling forth for the judgment of Ahab. And he's trying to find out who got the best idea to get this man to fall in Ramoth Gilead. And one said, on this manner. And one said, on that manner. So many came forth, many angels came forth and said, let's do it this way. Let's do it that way. 21, and there came forth the Spirit and stood before the Lord and said, I will persuade him. And the Lord said unto him, wherewith? Meaning how? How are you going to do it? And he said, I will go forth and I will be a lion spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. In other words, I'm going to be a lion spirit in the mouth of all his advisors. And his advisors will convince him that he will be successful in war. And that's the same exact thing that's happening to the nations. These spirits are working through their advisors, their cabinet, convincing them that, yes, we can pull that off. Right? And he said, thou shalt persuade him and prevail also. Go forth and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lion spirit in the mouth of all thy prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil concerning thee. Right? So that's what led to his destruction. So now we see how the Most High is at play. Okay? We see how the Most High is at play. Okay? Verse 13, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to battle of the great day of Almighty God. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see a shame. So this is a warning to us. Understanding the times and how things are moving in the times that we're in, it's best for us to keep our garments clean. It's best for us to remain under the hedge and the protection of the Most High. And he gathered them together into one place in the Hebrew tongue, or called in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. Okay, which in Hebrew goes back to the Hebrew word har, which means mount. Megiddo. Okay, Mount Megiddo. All right, moving on. All right, last few scriptures. We're almost done. Let's go to the book. Let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 13 and verse number 1. All right, so how is this going to play out? All right. How is this going to play out? 2nd Esdras 13 and 1 says, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number, from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved for himself a great mountain, and flew upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. So the nations which came together, it says they gathered together to subdue him, meaning the nations came together to subdue Christ, were sore afraid. They were terrified, and yet durst, meaning they continued to fight. Why? Well, we're going to show you why. We're going to show you why. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was sore afraid. And that's the final destination of the nations. Okay? Those who fight against Christ. Dust and the smell of smoke. Now let's jump down. Let's get the interpretation of the dream. "25 says, this is the meaning of the vision. Whereas thou sawest a man coming up from the sea, the same is he whom God the highest have kept a great season, whom by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. And whereas thou saw that out of his mouth there came a blast of wind and fire and storm, and when he had held neither sword, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him." This is the interpretation. So now the nations are coming to fight against Christ. Okay? It says the whole multitude came to subdue him. Why? Because maybe they're viewing him as an alien invasion. Now they're trying to subdue and contain this alien force, so that now they can experiment and examine him and try to take some of his technology and use it for their military. Okay, that's what's going on in the silly minds of the nations. Okay, but this ain't ET. This ain't the Greys. This ain't the Greens. This ain't the Reptilians. This ain't Planet X or Nubaru. Okay. This is Yeshua Mashiach, who the world calls Jesus Christ, our Lord, coming back with a vengeance. And you're not going to be able to subdue him. Okay? 29 says, "Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth." Now it's going into the state of the earth. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. Okay, so there's going to be all-out war when Christ returns to the earth. But we understand that the nations that are fighting against each other, they're eventually going to say within themselves, something is going to enter their mind. Again, all from the Most High. a spirit is going to come upon them in which they're going to now ask themselves, why are we fighting each other? Maybe it's these people who are in the wilderness. Let's go up. Let's spare fighting each other, and let's all go and unite to fight against these people who are dwelling in unwalled villages. Because after all, they're the cause of all our troubles. They're the reason why the whole world is at war. So once they do that, that's going to be their impending, that's where they're going to meet their impending doom. So now that's when Christ returns to the earth. And now he's fighting for us. Right? And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I showed thee before, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. So we understand that this is Christ. Now check this out. 34. In fact, 33 is important as well. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. So again, it's going to be all out war when right before Christ returns. All the nations will be at war against each other. And it's only when this thought enters their mind, as it says in the book of Ezekiel, that they're going to go up against the people dwelling in unwalled villages, that they're going to turn from fighting each other and start to come against us. And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou saw them, willing to come and to overcome them by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of Mount Zion. And Zion shall come, and shall be showed to all men, being prepared and builded, like as thou sawest a hill graven without hands. And this my son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest. So all the wicked inventions, all the weapons, and all the things the nations are not going to have a chance. It also tells us in the book of Ezekiel that there should be 7 months of burial for the nations. And then on top of that, all the weapons and everything they created will be destroyed, so that they never have the opportunity to rise up again. Okay? So all the satellites, all the lasers, and all this madness they're creating is going to be garbage. It's going to be garbage sitting somewhere in the landfill, being burnt to crisp, to ashes, to dust. That's what's going to become of all these weapons. They spending billions of dollars on these technologies. Okay? And all of it is going to come to naught. All right, moving on. We're almost done. The book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse number 12. And we're going to take this down to 17. And this is going to show us why the nations, are going to fight, even though they're terrified. They're still going to attempt to fight. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb. So the 10 horns will fight against Christ. Okay, when this happens, America will already be destroyed. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings. So the Lamb will prevail. The Lamb will prevail. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. So not only will he have the angels, he's going to have the resurrected. He's going to have the elect also as a part of his army. And they're going to go through the earth, judging and destroying the earth. Okay? When I say going and destroying the earth, judging and destroying the earth, I'm talking about the nations which have destroyed the earth. As it says in Revelation chapter 11, that you shall destroy them which destroy the earth. And that's what's going to happen. And that's going to be the starting process, which will eventually lead to the healing and the cleaning of the earth. Okay? And he said unto them, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, ye shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So this is why the nations, even though they're afraid, even though they understand that they're moving to the point of no return, even though they know and understand that they're making decisions that will lead to their demise, they're still going to press forward. Why? Because the Most High have put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. Because he's at the head of all of this. It's not their will being done. They're not going into that country to protect their interests as they think, as they believe. Okay? With every invasion that takes place, every war that takes place, every conflict that takes place is bringing them closer and closer to their judgment. So they think it's about oil. They think it's about the mineral resources. They think it's about the precious metals of the earth. They think it's about preserving the waters, and they think it's about everything outside of what it truly is. And it is all of that comes into play on, again, when you're dealing on the surface. But ultimately, all of these decisions are leading a step closer to their impending doom. Okay? All right, we got just a few more. Just a few more. Matthew 24 and 29. This is the invasion. This is the final invasion. Okay? This is what the nations think they are preparing. This is what they think. This is the fight they believe they can win. Matthew 24 and 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. I thought everyone was looking for the return of Christ. Why are the nations of the earth mourning? Let's see why. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Here is your final invasion. Okay? And no, the American Air Force will not win. Okay? There will be no Will Smith to come at the end of the movie to protect you from this invasion. You will lose this fight. And he shall send the angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the one end of heaven to the other. So So this leads us to our last two scriptures. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for us? We know what the angels are being called to do against the nations. We know what the angels are being called to do to fulfill the will of Almighty God. But what does this mean for us? Let's go to Psalms chapter 34, verse number 7, and we're going to end it in the book of Psalms 91. Psalm 37, verse number 7. Make it Psalm 34, Salaki, excuse me. Psalms 34, verse 7. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. So, the angels will mean the destruction of the nations. The question is, what will the nations mean for, or what will the angels mean for us? Well, it all depends on which side of judgment we stand on. If you fear the Most High, if you believe in his only begotten Son, and live according as is instructed in his gospels, then the angels will deliver you. They'll protect you. But if you're living in sin, if you're living in a way that is against the way and the commandments of the Most High, you'll meet the same fate as the nations. So everything we just discussed about what's going to happen to the nations, if you're on the wrong side of judgment, if we do not repent, everything that is predestined to happen to the nations who fight against Christ, just expect it to happen to you as well. Okay? Last scripture, Psalms 91. Start at verse 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In him will I trust. So now it's time to turn to the Most High. It's time to truly believe that the Most High is our protector, that he is our fortress. It's time to put our trust in the Most High. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His trust shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion, and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With that, I want to say bless you all and shalom. Thank you all again for your continual support and your participation in tonight's broadcast. For those who are interested in the Hebrew and Bible Academy, we are officially entering week number 6. If you're interested, go to historytimes.org and all the information you need to join will be present there. Until next time, I want to say thank you all again for your love, your support, and yes, it's time to remain under the hedge of the Almighty God. With that, I want to say bless you all and shalom.
We ain't playing no games no more. We're ready for war, yeah. We ain't playing no games no more. We're ready for war. We're ready for war, yeah. We're ready for war.
I hit the block, prophesied about 100 missiles, drone flying by, bullets ricochet, they rip through tissue. NSA got you on their scope, just hope they miss you. DARPA got them cyborgs, they got them androids. They making life, but it's artificial. They making clones without no souls, I'm talking mind control. They got them guns, they hit your mind through telepathy. They making antimatter bombs as they weaponry. Them talking quantum physics, summoning raising spirits. They got them laser guns, they got them weather guns. Oh, you thought that was something? You thought they busted something? You thought that something compared to when Christ is coming? You ain't seen nothing yet. Make a bet you won't forget. He's going down, coming back for war. He coming back. He coming back. He coming back. When he crack the skies all black, he the light. He got them saints with him. He got them angels with him. And make you feel it in your spirit coming back for war. Yeah. He coming back. He coming back. When he crack the skies all black, he the light. He got them saints with him. He got them angels with him. And make you feel it in your spirit coming back for war. Yeah. He coming back. 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 Yeah. He hit the scene. He coming back from the east with the saints who endured and took the guillotine like a thief in the night. Catch you sleeping good night. He coming back with a multitude and they all got crowns with a glorious body. Can't get hurt from them rounds. Said they shooting conventional, spiritual miracle. Got the Ark of the Covenant, break them down to the mineral. You ain't got no armor here, you gon' need Obamacare. But where you going, it's gon' feel like a sauna there. They got nuke bombs, we got Goku. I'm talking spirit bombs, make them throw it up and make it rain fire bombs. Yo, we here for real, one look you disintegrate. Know what it mean, bringing recompense, make me coming down and represent. Young trap, I'm on this scene, man. I ain't no play no games, this ain't no game no more. We strapped up ready for war. When he coming back, he coming back. He coming back when he crack the skies all black. He the light, he got them saints with him. He got them angels with him. And make you feel it in your spirit coming back for war. Yeah. He coming back. He coming back when he crack the skies all black. He the light, he got them saints with him. He got them angels with him. And make you feel it in your spirit